Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the 21st episode of the Awareness podcast. Today, we're here with our special guest, Carlos Coto. Thank you very much for being here. And yes, introduce yourself to the people.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. My name is Carlos Coto. I am a mental performance consultant with San Diego FC at the MLS level. I was born and raised in Costa Rica, and I came to the States to play soccer in college back in 2014. So it's been a while since I got here to the US, but it's been really great experiences, right? Getting to be a student athlete, getting to understand what that looks like, having the opportunity to play and study at the same time, get your education and continue to pursue your passions. Like, it's great opportunity. So I'm happy to be here with you guys, and yeah, let's dive in.
That's great, man. That's great. And of course, you started as an athlete, but then what got you into mental coaching in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, for that, I have to go back to when I was a really young kid. Uh,
Yeah.
I was 9 years old, and my parents actually were going through a divorce. That was the first
Mm,
time that my mom took me to therapy for the first time. It was great
okay.
experience, right? I was really young. Stuff at home was kind of tough, and
Hmm.
going to therapy almost gave me the chance to understand, okay, like I can learn a few skills, I can learn a few different things that I can do, techniques, strategies, to basically like feel like I'm okay, like
Okay.
even if things feel challenging at home, even if things feel just tumultuous, right? Like it's okay. I can do a few things to still feel like I'm okay, and feel like I have my foot on the ground. And so I thought it was super helpful, and I was like, I would love
Okay.
to do that, but of course don't want to do it with people that are going through divorces. That's not that fun.
Okay.
I certainly want to be able to do it with athletes. I was really
Mm,
passionate about the game of soccer growing up, football as we call it back home, and just sports in general. So I was like, if I can do these same things that the therapist was doing with me, but for professional athletes or collegiate athletes or athletes in general,
mhm.
I'd really be passionate about that. So that's kind of like the main reason why I got into the field of sports psychology first. But then it was
Okay.
really important for me to understand that like the field of sports psychology has so many different ways of being able to work. You can be a
Okay.
therapist, you can be a clinician, meaning that you're training mental health, or you can
Hmm.
also, go into the mental performance route, which is a lot more applied to the performance aspect of the game. And that's kind of like where my passion was at. So I ended up getting my master's in applied sports psychology so that I can actually do mental performance with athletes. So a lot more related to what happens on field as opposed to what happens on the day-to-day basis off the field, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay. So the sports psychologist also could also deal with the things that go outside, but then the mental performance part focuses more on what's happening on the field and how you can frame things differently in your mind in order to affect directly your performance.
Yeah, basically. So there's
Okay.
there's th- those two avenues. People can go for either or people can be trained for both. But it
Okay.
also is important for us as practitioners to understand where is our passion. Because if my
Hmm.
passion is on performance, I'm going to try to tackle the performance aspect a little bit more. My passion is not as much on the clinical side of things, even though I
Hmm.
do believe it's really important. It was important for me to really identify, okay, what is it that I truly want to work with when I'm working with these athletes? And it was a lot more related to on field, on court, the performance aspect of their game.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Understand. So ever since you were like 9 years old, 10 years old, you always had that on mind that you wanted to work in the sports psychology part.
Yeah. I was very blessed to understand that I knew what I wanted to do
Yeah.
when I was really young. So it was not a linear path because it's never linear, but it
Uh-huh.
was it was nice to know that's what I'm hunting. That's what I'm going to try to do on a daily basis, and it was just years of getting ready for it.
I think it's a nice story because like everyone is always struggling to find their why in their career, but you had it like early on. Of course, like not in the same area, but like you really want to help people like through their mental part.
For sure.
It's really nice.
That's, that's great, man. And I mean, you worked at the Minnesota Twins, right? And then you switched over to San Diego. How was that? How was that experience and also that switch? Because I mean, of course, I imagine when you deal with baseball players and playing baseball, it's gonna be a little bit different. Like the approach is gonna be a little bit different than when you deal with soccer players.
Yeah, it was a great experience. I had the chance to join the Minnesota Twins a few months prior to graduating from grad school, and
Okay.
it was one of those things where, again, the way that I explain it is, you don't really know what's going to happen in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years, right? Nobody truly knows. But if you're looking for something, I think that the approach that I took back in the day was, I'm going to try to be as prepared as I can. I'm going to be as ready as I can for whatever comes my way. And so when I was in grad school, I was truly grinding to, whenever an opportunity would show up and knock on my door, of course you go for, you go looking for it, but like the opportunity also has to come to you. And the reason why I say that is because when I joined the Twins back in, beginning of 2020, that contract could have happened in 2019 or in 2021 for the external consulting firm that I was going to join and work for. And that wouldn't have been me. It would have been somebody else.
Okay.
It was one of those things where, for those type of opportunities to come your way, you have to be as prepared as possible. And there's also that element of luck that has to happen. Many athletes that I know have been as prepared as possible, and that opportunity to making their debut, right, doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So it's really challenging, but that's also kind of like how it works. So one of the things that I always say is like, try to be as prepared as you can be, try to anticipate as much as you can. And there's also that element of luck that is truly outside of our personal control. But the experience with the Twins was a really good one. 5 seasons with those guys over there. I think it was great learning experiences. I was really young in my career, still young in my career, but back in the day was extremely young. So it was a lot of really just trying to understand, how do I want to operate? How do I want to show up? The daily grind of professional sports is no joke. These guys are playing games basically every day from February till end of September, beginning of October, if they make playoffs. So it's a really heavy year. And, to be able to kind of like have the experience to understand what that looks like, what that feels like, it's almost like you want to go through year 1 just to understand what it's like. So that actually for year 2, year 3, you can actually start putting together some of the programs that you want to run with the guys. What are some of the things that you want to be doing with the organization as a whole? So it's really hard for me to pinpoint learning experiences and talk about them all at this time, just because there were so many. But it was a fantastic experience. And then I think towards the tail end of my time with the Twins, I was already kind of like itching to go back to to the sport that I really enjoy, which is the game of football, right? The game of soccer. And so it was a lot about, network with different organizations to try to understand what opportunities are out there. There were not that many at the end of last year, but I think the networking that I was doing and another couple of practitioners that I know wanted to do a similar transition that we were doing ended up creating a bunch of opportunities. So there were a few MLS teams at the end of last year that offered a couple of positions, and San Diego was one of them. I was fortunate, same thing, being as prepared as possible, anticipating as you can, but also that element of luck, because San Diego's expansion team is happening this year. That could have happened 3 years ago. It wouldn't have been me. That would have happened 2 years, plus. It wouldn't have been me. So it's one of those things that I know how prepared I am, and I can, I'm not forgetting the fact that there's an element of luck that definitely plays into that equation for sure.
No, definitely, man. And I some days ago, I actually looked into something that said that, of course, you need some luck, but the only way for you to get lucky is to be in the game.
Correct.
And to be in the game, that's your preparation that you're talking about. So you're preparing to have biggest odds of being lucky, no?
For sure. That's why when I was talking about it, I always start with the preparation component.
Yeah.
I never say, you got to get lucky first and then no. You got to be as prepared as you can, make as many reps as you can on a daily basis, so that whenever that opportunity does come, it's not that you have to say, am I ready or not? It's more like, yeah, let's do it because I've been waiting for this for a little bit. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And what are you guys building over there in San Diego? Mostly in terms of mental performance, like what's the goal that you guys have with that?
Yeah, when I was going through my interview process, and that's one of the main reasons why I was really excited about joining here, is because they were telling me that they see the first process being like a 7-year process. We start expansion team this year, and we have the first team operating, right? So like it definitely works that the team is doing really well, right? First in the West.
Yeah.
Doesn't oftentimes happens as an expansion team. But one of the things that we're looking forward to is building that academy as well, the Right to Dream Academy. And so welcoming the first cohort of kids. Those are U11s and U12s, and the idea is to start adding cohorts of kids for the next 6-7 years, so that by the end of the 6th-7th year, now we're gonna have a second team, and that second team is gonna start players into the first team. So we're certainly going for the slow burn, long process, 7 years. But what we're hoping to build is a department of 3 different providers, right? Myself and then 2 others. So I'm hoping to bring a couple of different providers by the end of 2026, and then the other one by the end of 2027. By the end of 2027, we're also gonna welcome the first cohort of female athletes. Again, same thing, under 11s, under 12s, and so that academy is gonna be a little bit different than the normal MLS academies, because it's gonna be both males and females. It's a fantastic project. I think being connected to the Right to Dream community, I don't know how much you all know or the audience knows, but I would certainly recommend everybody to go and look for Right to Dream. They started in Ghana, and now we have academies in Ghana, in Egypt, in Denmark, and now starting here in San Diego. So really special project, and what we're trying to build is just the most comprehensive department of mental performance sports psychology in the MLS, for sure.
That's great, man. That's great. So it sounds like there's a very holistic approach in that development of the athlete with the Right to Dream Academy, no?
Absolutely. They talk about 5 different pillars. They talk about the physical, the medical, the nutrition, the mental, and then data science. And so every single athlete that is being developed through the academy is being seen from like a human performance standpoint through those 5 pillars. And so it's very holistic. Very it's not common for academies to have that holistic approach just yet.
So if I understand, every year you start with one new team, and you start with under 11s, and then you go up, look, under 12s, under 13s.
That under 11 and under 12 are gonna become under 13s next year, right? And so we welcome another 11s.
So every year you get a new team. I think this shows like how much you want to take care of the kids. Like, don't just put all the teams in there from the start and then we see how it goes.
Correct.
Developing something.
Oh, that's great, man. And now that we have a good idea, just to finish it off, this part of the background and also where you are right now, what are those main differences that you can outline from a baseball player and a soccer player in terms of the mental part?
I want to start by saying, like oftentimes people do think about, okay, if I play different sports or if I'm doing different things in my daily basis, it's got to be different. And truthfully, we all have our brain, our human brain, and all we're trying to do is perform at our best, whether we are playing baseball, whether we are playing soccer, whether we are giving a presentation at school, whether we're preparing for a test, whether we're preparing for a conversation with our partner, with our families. Like, we're all trying to perform something, and we're all coming from the same element of, we have that same human brain. So anything that has to do with your focus, with your way of regulating your emotions, with your way of regulating your levels of energy in terms of arousal, in terms of like how you're setting intentions for how you want to show up to the event, when things are not going your way, how are you allowing yourself to understand that that's part of the game, or is that part of the conversation? So everything that I'm talking about, it doesn't matter if you're playing baseball, soccer, or you play tennis, you're a gymnast, or you're a mathematician. It doesn't matter. Like, you're performing and you're coming from like the same element, same brain. So there's a lot of similarities. I think the differences come actually more from like a cultural standpoint. So the culture of the game of baseball is a different culture than the culture of the game of football. And so when I'm talking about the culture, I'm talking about the levels of energy in which the players engage with the things that they have to do on a daily basis. For example, if I'm thinking about a pitcher, and the pitcher is going through their workout, and the bullpen, right, is not the same as if I'm thinking about a rondo, right, for the guys here in San Diego, right? Like, the level of energy is different. So the way that they engage with the things they do is a little different from like a cultural standpoint. That's where I see like the biggest differences. But when it comes to like individuals, we all have the same human brain, and we're all trying to perform. So it's not that different.
It's like the same principles, but then the specifics about each sport are what makes it different. Like you're not trying to hit a ball, you're not trying to kick a ball. In this case, you're trying to hit a ball like a baseball that's coming to you.
Right,
But
and
then
that's
the
where
principles end up being the same.
right, the principles end up being the
Okay.
same from like a psychological standpoint, but when we're
Yeah.
talking about, let's say, motor learning, right? Like motor learning for baseball is a little bit different than motor learning for soccer, specifically
Okay.
at the highest level, right? Like if we have youth athletes, of course, there's always that recommendation of like try to play as many sports as you can so that you can be a well-rounded individual. But when
Yeah.
you're actually getting to like the top of the top, being MLB or MLS, the motor learning component is very different. So that's a little bit of like the similarities and differences that we see at the same time.
Okay. And Coto, now that we talk about like your background and also your professional part right now, let's talk a little bit about your philosophy and how you deal in a day to day with your players. Like, what are your main pillars when you're treating an athlete?
Yeah, that's a good question. I I would always say I start with relationship building. If I think about these professional athletes, they've been doing this for years. If they
Mhm.
are in their first year, second year, and maybe they haven't been pros for years, they still have been at a high level for a large number of years. So they do have a pretty good understanding of their own process. They do have a pretty good understanding of their own self. Um, and if I were to come in with my expertise and almost like try to force something into their day to day, it's not going to go well. So I
Yeah.
think I always start with like building a really strong relationship. I'm not saying I want to be friends with them. I'm not saying I want to be buddies with them, but I truly want them to know that I'm a resource, that I'm
Mhm.
there, that I'm non-invasive, and that as they navigate their day to day, because navigating the day to day of a pro sport career is quite challenging.
Yeah.
Um, that they can always see me as somebody that they can lean on and somebody that can engage in conversation to try to learn what are some of the things that we can be doing to keep getting better. So
Okay.
it always starts with relationship building. I think when I get to have a pretty good relationship with the players, with the staff, with the stakeholders in the organization, then I think when it comes down to pillars, it really depends on what they're going through. But I do have a few frameworks that I like to work through.
Okay.
Let's say, for example, like you're a coach and you're working with I don't know, the defenders, and you
Mhm.
want these defenders to be more alert
Yeah.
on game day. What I would suggest this coach, when we have a good relationship, is that he helps or she helps those players set intentions. Set
Okay.
intentions of during practice this week, we're gonna try to be, a little bit more on alert than what we were last week. And so
Mm.
what we're looking for is that their focus is going a little bit more towards being on alert. If we are on
Okay.
alert Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we get to match day -1, and we do a reflection process of how much, on alert were we throughout the week, and you get the players to talk about it, you're gonna see those players be much more on alert during game day on Saturday.
They
That's
have it
because
top of mind.
they have the top of their mind that is they want to be on alert, but not only that, they have been practicing that on a daily basis for a few days already.
Okay.
Just build the habits.
So it's building habits, but it's also like coming from the coach and I have a pretty good relationship, and the coach is naming that what he wants to see is players more on alert. So let's say, for example, like I'm talking to a player individually, and the player is telling me that he's having trouble being on alert as the coach wants them to be on alert. And so my
Okay.
my recommendation there is always asking questions to the player of what does it look like when you're on alert? What does it
Mhm.
look like when you're not on alert? When you're not on alert and you have made an adjustment on the field to actually, be at the top of the play and go and press and kind of like be on alert in that moment, like what was that adjustment like? And those answers usually come from the players. It's never me telling them what to do. It's never me telling them how to do it, because they have done it already for a good number of years and they have done it before. So they know what that looks like. They know what that feels like. But
Okay.
sometimes we have so much going on and so much thrown at us that being able to access those things on our own is really hard.
Okay.
That's why
No.
those conversations are so important, right? So like I think in terms of pillars, like intention setting for me is critical. You want to set intentions always before the event, meaning practice, meaning games, meaning video analysis, meaning before going to the gym and doing some strength work. Set intentions, because when you set intentions, you're being able to drive your focus to where you want it to be, right? But then throughout the event, talking about that framework that I really like, because I've seen it work and I've seen it work really well, is a little bit about regulating throughout the event, right? So you set intention prior to the event, you regulate throughout the event, meaning you regulate your emotions, you regulate your levels of energy, you regulate your arousal, and then now you're going to be a little bit more regulated to understand what is it that I need for this specific moment in the game or for this specific moment in practice. And then at the end of the event, once everything is done, you reflect. What is one thing that I could have done better today? What are two things that I believe I did well today? So like that 2-in-1 rule that people usually like to talk about. If an athlete, if a coach, if a stakeholder is putting that framework into practice, intention setting, regulation, and throughout a long period of time, that person is going to improve their performance. It's research, right? And it's very simple. So like I like talking about that to my athletes, not from I want you to do this, but when you have done this, what do you see? When you haven't done this, what are you not seeing? Like, let's give it a shot for a couple of days, see how you're feeling. But oftentimes it's like, yeah, I feel much more focused. I feel much more regulated throughout. And I feel like I'm learning the things that I need to do tomorrow to get better. And it's like, that's perfect. If you keep doing that, you're going to improve your performance. So I would say, like, in terms of approach pillars, those are some of the ones that I utilize. Of course, there's a few others, like people can talk about, focus, concentration, or motivation, or imagery, stuff like that. But anybody can do that type of work from like if you do get like a script online and you read the script for a visualization exercise, yeah, it's great. And you can build some skills. But when it comes down to like actually understanding the organization, the system, the individual, that's where the expertise lies. And that's where you have to have a few of those frameworks to be able to work with them.
I love it, man. So set intentions, regulate, and then reflect afterwards. Yeah. And then that reflection, do you want it to be based on the intentions that you said at the beginning, or do you do kind of like a more general reflection?
It can be either or, because nobody's the same. Everybody's different. So I have some athletes that are going to be a little more passionate about that intention setting component. When you reflect on in relation to that. But you're going to have some athletes that, they're not going to be as passionate about setting those intentions at the beginning, or they're actually a little bit more critical about the performance overall. And so it's often much more general. So it really depends on the athlete. It really depends on what the athlete is needing. Oftentimes, I get that question from, should I be doing this or this? And what I oftentimes recommend, or there's another better word for that. I think it's more like a challenge, I guess. Why not do both different times? Like if you're going to reflect right after the game, reflect generally, or reflect specific to your intention. And then later today, can you also reflect on the other one? Like you don't have to do just one. As long as it's structured and as long as it is intentional, it's going to be okay.
And the end goal is to make it like subconscious, or? Because like actually yesterday in practice, we talked about our coach. We got some critique because like some of our guys were like stopping after some actions and didn't keep playing, like happens sometimes. And it was like, every time you're going to do it, like you have to go out and like do one kg run, just to build like just to keep it as a habit, like we talked before. And also what we tell some of our athletes to, let's say they go into a practice or into a game, like have 3 things in your mind, like 3 habits or like intentions that you want to work on each day. And then also like reflect on it after the practice or the game. I think it's really helpful. I used it myself. So let's say I go into a game, I want to play more aggressive.
Right.
It's something which is controllable and you can see how it works.
Right. In terms of like the question of like, is it what we're wanting to do is making like some conscience? I don't know. Like, I guess the way that I see it is there's time and space for everything. Like when you're actually out there and you're performing, you're playing, just go and play. It's not the time. It's not the time to like overly think about your intentions. It's not the time to overly think about like what specific regulating strategy am I gonna use, or it's not the time to like just think about the no, just go and play, right? When you're done playing, right? When you're like maybe in a different mind and headspace, mind space, that's when you can like actually reflect a little bit more on all of that and actually continue to set more intentions for the practices and games to come. But when it's performance time, it's performance time. Like I certainly don't want them to like be thinking of things too much. It's like just go trust your training, go trust what you've been practicing and doing.
So you kind of want them to like flow through their performance.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
Now, if they end up, setting intentions consistently, if they end up regulating, and understanding how they regulate best consistently, and if they continue to reflect throughout a longer period of time, like all of these things are gonna become like a second nature, just like habits, right?
Mhm.
I don't know how connected, if it's the same thing as being subconscious about it, but like is more like a habit that you can just trust and then maybe yes flow a little bit more.
So your idea
Okay.
is to set the intentions in like during the training week, and then when it comes to game day, you just let them play.
Yeah, people ask me that all the time. They're like, "Oh, are you there with the guys on game day?" And I'm like, No, that's for two reasons. One, I think my boss and our organization believes that that like the work has to be done throughout the week, and game day is game day for them to perform. But then that's also part of my philosophy. Like I have no business in being there in the bench on game day, in my opinion. It's like if I prepare those guys and we had the space to do as much preparation as we could throughout the week, game day comes around, is your time to go and play, is your time to go and shine. Why would you want me there? I don't know. I'm not playing. Is them,
Definitely.
you know?
Definitely, man. And I loved also the part when you said it's not only for them to set those intentions, but for you to know also what their perception of that whatever it is, aggressiveness or alertness means. Because for everybody it might be different. And for some people, they might not even know how that looks like. So I like putting that picture of, okay, what does being aggressive mean? And if you know what it means, then you're able to resemble it more, no?
Correct. And for some people, they're not gonna know, and they're gonna start knowing from like just building a little bit of awareness. Then they try it out, it doesn't feel comfortable. Then they have to keep trying to see if it becomes comfortable throughout time. But if not, then we have to make adjustments. But it's one of those things that I think professional athletes do understand for the most part. Is every single day that they come in is not just to come train and that's it. Is really about understanding what is the area of my game that I want to get better at, and what are those little details that I can start focusing on to get better throughout time. And that's something that I think from like a youth athlete perspective, it's okay to not know that, right? That comes with
Okay.
time. But the faster you can learn that the getting better at the game is not just about playing a scrimmage every single day. It's also about understanding what are those little details that I can focus on to get better. Like you're getting better for 5, 6, 7 years from now. You're not getting just better for literally just tomorrow. So it's
Okay.
one of the things that I think is important for people to know as well.
So like being aware of everything that you're doing so you can then work on it. And now that you mentioned the younger athletes, I wanted to ask you, because last time we talked, you said something that really stuck on my mind. Whenever a young guy comes into the team, or a new person comes into the team, and a lot of the times you see that drop in performance, and you mentioned a really key concept, which was the value-based behavior. I wanted you to talk a little bit about it and what does it mean and how do you work through it?
Yeah, that one is related to like the question that you had earlier about the pillars, right? And my approach. And I was sharing my, one of the frameworks that I really like using. But another avenue that I usually like to take my athletes through is for them to understand what are their values. What are the things that they trust, what not trust, what are the things that they believe that are the most important to them. And when people understand what is it that truly is important to them, I think it's easier for them to to act in accordance to those values. So
Okay.
I'm gonna give you guys an example. Like, I was working with this athlete, and we were identifying that his values were being humble, being a great teammate,
Mhm.
being a hard worker, and appreciating what he has. So
Okay.
there were 4 values that to him, those are really important. And so the nice thing about that is that I was actually being able to ask him, okay, I want you to focus on Monday on one of those. I want you to
Mm.
focus on Tuesday on one of those, Wednesday on one of those, Thursday on one of those. And so the idea is that every single thing that he does is a little bit related or in accordance to that one value. So if being humble is one of those, I'm asking him to focus on how can you show up with humility? How can you display being humble? How can
Okay.
you connect with people and allow people to see that you're a humble person, right?
Okay.
Because that is important to him. So when that is important to him and he does that on a daily basis, he's going to feel much more fulfilled because he's acting in accordance to something that he truly cares about.
Okay.
And the other hardworking component that he was talking about is like, okay, like, can you show up to work today and show up as the hardest worker that you can be today? So everything that he was doing, meaning movement prep, individual prep, team prep, gym session, training, recovery, all these different things, he was doing it with an extra added element of hard work because that's what he was
Okay.
focusing on that day. And it was easy for him to focus on that because that's something that he truly cares about. That's something that he truly believes. And if we
Mm.
think about us having to work 5-6 days a week and we have, 4, 5, 6 different values, is never going to be boring because every day we're going to come in focusing on something a little bit different, but that is going to help us not only feel fulfilled, but it's going to help us really tackle all the different things that we have to do on a daily basis that are a ton of things. So
Okay.
I think where it becomes a special approach for athletes is that because they have gone through years not really thinking about what is truly important to them, oftentimes all they're thinking is, oh, I need to play well so that I can keep my job, or oh, I need to play well so that I can get to the next level. It's always hunting something that you truly don't have at the time, and
Mm.
it's truly hunting something that at the end of the day you might not know. You don't know if it's going to happen or not.
Yeah.
You are actually going every day trying to behave and trying to hunt the things that you trust are things that are important to you. At the end of the day, that athlete is going to feel a lot more fulfilled than the athlete that is hunting something that is really not in our hands.
Okay.
And that's a really big difference. That then at the end of the day, what ends up happening is that it impacts performance productively versus impacting performance unproductively. I mean, impacting performance productively because it's something that you're truly in control of. And
Mhm.
the other athlete is, their performance is being impacted because they're focusing is something that they really don't know if they're going to be able to hold or not.
Okay.
So
So it's
focus more
basic.
on, oh yeah.
You
So
go.
focus more on the current self, not thinking what could have been like maybe in 1 week or something.
Correct.
Because that means also you don't know how you're gonna feel like and when you achieve it, you're gonna chase another thing. You're just
Correct.
gonna keep going from there. And then you also said like on each different day you focus on different habits. Do you also like evaluate like maybe on Monday when you focused on being humble, if he felt better on Tuesday when he focused on being a good teammate, or is the goal to have everything?
It doesn't have to be specifically that. Like I'm talking about like the first few steps as you identify those values. Perhaps yes, focus on one value per day, just so that you can actually dive deep into that specific one. Then if I ask you to focus on 5 different things in one day, I'm already going against what I try to preach, which is, we can focus on one thing at a time. So yeah, I would say like that's the first steps to be able to kind of make it become something that you can feel fulfilled by.
Okay. Okay. So if I put an example for me, let's say before I used to focus a lot on just trying to win the game or trying to win that championship that was coming or trying to win that award. And that was not fully in my control. What if I got injured in the middle of the season? What if the best player of the team got injured and then we have less odds of winning that championship? And that's not fully in my control. But then if I made my focus, and that will make me unhappy. Then if I make my focus, the things that I can put, the input that I can have in the game, which is what I truly believe is real, then that part I can fully control and I can truly execute on. No.
Yeah, yeah, I would
Okay.
say so. I think at the end of the day, it does come to consistency, right? Like you can have players that are brilliant at what they do, but if they're inconsistent, that player might not make the top level. I think the top level, the players that make it are not necessarily just the highest talents, but is more the ones that can play consistently at a good level.
Definitely, man. And now that you talk about consistency, is a very good bridge to what we wanted to talk afterwards, which was, and this part of kind of applies to me as well because I'm those type of people that doesn't necessarily know when to stop. So I just wanted to ask you, how do you ensure that somebody is consistent without risking, I don't know, burnout or probably an injury? Do you have any specific way that you work on that part?
It really depends for the athlete. I think
Okay.
some players are going to be a little bit more dynamic and are going to be able to endure a little bit more. I
Mhm.
think we have to also look at the ages, right? Development. The younger athletes, like maybe can do a little bit more, but we also want them to like expand and do different sports, not just one. Um,
Okay.
then as they start to grow, like the bandwidth of how much they can do physically diminishes. Um,
Okay.
like if I think about our specific team right now, we have a 17-year-old and we have a 35-year-old. The
Mm.
bandwidth in which what they do on a daily basis, it has to be different. Um, so I think we have to look at the age, we have to look at the stage of development, we have to look at how much they're doing, we have to look at how much they're enjoying it still. Um, but yeah, rest is super important. So like being able to have a good structure for your own rest is key, is crucial. Um, in terms of specific strategies, I would say like just look at things that you can do to have a structure for your rest. Um,
Okay.
Try to do things that are outside of your sport, not just
Okay.
play the game day in and day out for months. Like be able to do something different, and then try to like set intentions for how are you enjoying what you're doing. um, I don't think there's a specific recipe for preventing burnout. You can be
Mm.
doing everything right and still feel burned out. It's just part of like our human race as well. Like you go to work every day, you might have a great routine, and different moments in the year you might feel burned out too. So it's important to just, I guess, also understand what are some of those signs of burnout for your own situation.
Okay.
Pay attention to those, and then hopefully have a structure that is going to allow you to also get good rest.
Okay, because I was looking into it actually, and I was in that burnout. Most of the time happens when you don't see kind of like the reward of what you're doing. Like you're doing a lot and you don't see the reward of it. But then I can see how your framework for intention setting and also for value-based behavior it wouldn't mitigate like fully, but it would help in that part because you're constantly seeing the reward of what you're doing because you're constantly fulfilling what you can control. So if after a session you see, oh, I was aggressive today, I feel good about it, like I'm doing my stuff, instead of just waiting for that championship that is probably in a year.
Correct.
Oh
Correct.
yeah, I think that part is not gonna take burnout away, but then you can probably help a little bit.
Right.
Definitely, man. And now that we're talking also about consistency, and we also talked before about how you guys are first in the conference right now, I wanted to ask you, how do you keep the players in a right mental state and in performing at the highest level all season, if it's even possible?
Yeah. I mean, we're all human beings, right?
Yeah.
And not only the players, I think the staffs, um, ourselves as well. Like we have a continuum of services, and that's something that maybe you all, as you disseminate information, you can also include. But you have that continuum of services that goes from like an individual being in crisis to an individual excelling. And
Yeah.
we all human beings, we all live every day within that continuum, and we're
Yeah.
moving in different moments in the day within that continuum. Sometimes we're going to be experiencing very little bandwidth mentally, and we're going to feel like we're struggling. Sometimes we're going to experience a lot more bandwidth mentally, and we're going to feel like we're thriving, you know? And we can actually be in both on a daily basis. Is part of us being a human being. So I think in terms of like keeping them in the right frame of mind, I think it would be a disservice for me or a disservice for staff members to feel like we have to keep everybody in a good frame of mind every single day, because then if not, you know, we would be robots. So it's more like, can we come into work with openness to understand that some of our guys and some of our staff members are going to be thriving and some of them are going to be struggling. And then that might shift later this week. And then that might shift later next week. And that's going to look different in 2 months from now. But it's coming with openness to understand not everybody's going to be thriving at the same time. Not everybody's going to be struggling at the same time. But can we be open enough to understand where the other person is at? Can we be open enough to just give that space for them to experience what they're experiencing? I think me personally, in the work that I do, what I try to come in and do with my guys is to engage in little conversations that are gonna keep them trending in the direction of thriving, keep them trending in the direction of the things that they know they can do well, keep bringing them to the direction of like the things that they have been doing in the past couple of months that have gone very well, just so that they can be consistent with it, right? Like that's where the consistency piece comes in. But you know, like we have players here that, you know, their mental health is you know, being impacted just by the day-to-day of their and nature of their work. That mental health component is not what I oftentimes work on, but I can see it and I can talk to them about, hey, can we go and actually talk to somebody that has the capability of working some of these things. And when it comes down to the performance aspect, is trying to have those conversations on a daily basis, consistent basis, so that we can seek that consistency of like them performing at that high level. You know, I know you're talking about the team being in first place, and of course we want to ride that high as much as we can, but we know it's sports. You know, we can be first today and we can be in fourth place in 3 weeks, or we can maintain that first place and playoffs can be, you know, really tough, or we can go into fourth place, finish first. Like, we don't know. It's just about, you know, can we just keep on a daily basis doing all the things we need to do.
You also mentally prepare the players in case you get to the second place or third place, or you don't even think about it?
No, for sure too, you know. But also, like, that's not something that I want to talk too much about, because they know, you know, like those guys know. So it's more about, again, just asking them questions about what are some of the things that they were doing 2 weeks ago that were going really well, so that they can go back to that. You know, asking them questions of like, when you were at your best, what did that look like? What did that feel like? You know, I'm curious about it. Tell me about it. That brings them back to those things. And that's the consistency that we're talking about, doing it proactively.
So the key is like, for every player has their own like anchor points, like characteristics, which they want to, like, if they work out good, they want to keep them as long as possible.
Correct.
And he's not expecting or trying to maintain everybody at that thriving state all the time. But however they come in and they show up as every day, trying to get them in that direction as much as possible every time that you can, but not expecting them to be in that state all the time.
Correct.
Okay, perfect, man. No, bro, I loved it. What actionable thing that a young athlete can do today based on this conversation, just to get their performance better?
Just ask themselves one question before going out to practice or going out to the game is how do you want to show up in terms of level of effort? As simple as that. Just how do you want to show up in terms of level of effort? Answer that question, write it down if you can. First step. Of course, there's a lot more that we can do, but start simple. First step.
We start small.
Yeah.
Coto, I mean, I've loved the conversation, man. And last time we talked, I also loved it. And I wish we have another chance to talk. But I think you've provided a lot of value to us today. and especially for the guys to, like, my main takeaway is to not just go through the motions every time you go to practice and just go mindlessly through it, but then actually have intentions and have like a habit of reflecting through that workout that you had, to that training that you had, and actually take something from each session. So I think that was really valuable, man. I know we have to leave in like 5 minutes, but would you be okay if we go through some rapid fire questions, man?
Yeah, maybe like 3 minutes because I do have to transition to the next one. But yeah.
Okay. We can go through some of them then, and then we just leave the old ones for the next podcast now.
Of course.
Man, what is the best way to reset after a bad play?
To what?
To reset after a bad play.
There's so many ways. I would say go look at the senses, you know. So like tap, like the touch, the taste, the sight, like your senses, and whatever sense you connect with the most, use that. You know, so like
really?
if touch is one that you have really well developed, do like a finger tap. Or if taste is something that you have very well developed, you know, take a sip of Powerade or something like that. Like that's something that resets 100%.
Okay, never heard about
it. Yeah, me neither, man. I love it.
Okay, what's the difference between arrogance and elite confidence?
Ego.
Ego. Okay.
Man, and what is one final advice that you will leave to all young athletes?
You only live once. So, you know, like, I know sport is fantastic and sport is great and you want to be a professional footballer most likely, but you only live once. And so you probably are stressing too much. Like, give yourself a chance to be a human being as well, not just a footballer.
Okay, no, man. I love it, man. I love it. I really appreciate you taking the time for being here. And I know you're kind of busy this morning, so I really appreciate you coming here and bringing us so much value. And I just hope everybody watching it got as much value as we did, because we certainly did get a lot of it.
That's great.
I really love to talk. I wish we had more time. I wish you all the best, and I hope you're going to stay up on the first spot for the whole season.
Awesome. And thank you for inviting me, and keep doing what you guys are doing. The impact is great, so appreciate that.